Hi, Kobo here. This video ended up being longer than I expected in no small part because, as I will discuss later on, the article we are talking about today is no longer on the site it was originally published on. That site has been wiped from the internet. As I say, I don't believe that has anything to do with what we are talking about, but I wanted to make sure you know that I am taking an hour to go through this article because that website has been erased. The stuff in this article is too important to entirely disappear from the internet, and I wanted to make sure it continues to exist in as many places as possible. BuzzFeed, MTV News, and many individual pages are actively and passively being erased from the internet, with no physical copies to back them up. Although not all of these archives are particularly important, plenty had value, and that value has been lost. And thank you for your time. Hi, my name is Kobo, and this is my channel where I mostly like to talk about paleo media stuff. However, today I want to do something just a little bit different. If you have watched my Jurassic World Evolution Good and Bad video, which is part 1 of a 2-part series, then you watched enough of it, you will know that I talk about rumors and accusations, some very alleged stuff. I don't know how a better way to say that. Some alleged activities of the company, reputation and stuff. What I want to do today is I want to talk about an article I found just after I had recorded already, but while I was editing, and talk about some of the things that it says. As you can see on the screen, I am on an article titled F1 Manager Developer Accused of Dehumanizing Layoffs and Mismanagement. If you don't know already, the Frontier Developments is the development company that has made Planet Zoo, both Jurassic World Evolution games, and will be releasing either this year or next year Jurassic World Evolution 3, as well as Elite Dangerous and again F1 Manager, which there have been a couple years of this, and a few other titles. So that is what we're talking about, is Frontier Developments and the accusations, the alleged actions and events at Frontier Development. I have to be careful to emphasize that because Frontier Developments is in the UK and they have stricter, I think they're libel laws or something. I don't know what the laws are technically called, but they're the laws that say you are hurting my reputation and so therefore you owe me money. Basically, if you they're much easier. It's much easier in the UK to do that, to sue someone over a quote unquote damaged reputation, and so I'm being very careful because I am poor. I am doing this as somewhat of a hobby right now. This is neither a form of income nor is it going to get me any money. So this is just me dicking around, and I do not want to get sued. Even though I'm in America, I don't think that makes any difference. I think they can still sue you. So, especially these days. So anyway, but I still want to go through this because I think this is kind of important. As I said in the other videos, I love Jurassic World Evolution. I love Jurassic World Evolution 2 in particular. I thought Planet Zoo was a great game. It just ultimately wasn't what I wanted, especially when I had, Jurassic World to play with. Or now I have Prehistoric Kingdom, so, it just wasn't quite my thing in the same way. But I really liked him. I really liked him. And again, like I said in that other video, uh, I kind of defended some of the or product practices, or whatever you want to call it, just the way that they released DLCs, paid DLCs and stuff. And so I want to set the record straight, both some of the things that I said in the other video, and also just to go through this article so you too can see what this is. Ultimately, I don't know if the actual Sports Illustrated, this section of their website, is going to be down forever, or if it's just down today. It would make sense if it's down today, because today is, as of recording, I am recording on the night of the Super Bowl, and I'm pretty sure Sports Illustrated is an American company. So maybe this is just down. Did I go through that already? I practiced this just a little bit. So if I didn't say this, hopefully I did. Editing me is going to have fun with this. So I have this website. I have this article up, but the article is through the Wayback Machine, the Internet Archive website, because let me just show you. The Sports Illustrated video games section is gone. 410 gone. And I don't know exactly what 410 means, but the fact that it says gone after it leads me to conclude that it's just straight up gone. So so I had to go through the Wayback Machine to access this. I do not think, and just to show you too, this is not just this article, as in this article has been taken down. This is the video game /news. Oh shoot, I did the wrong thing. This is the video games. Oh god, what am I doing? It's all down. And Sports Illustrated proper is not down. If I were to do this. There, see? Sports Illustrated isn't down, but Sports Illustrated Video Games is down. So, and that includes that article. So, what I want to say about that is, again, this is the night of the Super Bowl, so I don't think that really has to... I think that if it is down, it is more likely to either A, be Sports Illustrated has cut that division, or B, it is the single night where that should be down, because they're going to prioritize whether there was a problem or if there were updates or what, I don't know. But tonight would be the night to do it. So, but whatever it is, I don't think it's at all related to what we're going to talk about here in the no conspiracy theories going on. I just think that happens to be Sports Illustrated has its own stuff going on, and so I had to use the Wayback Machine. Does that make sense? Okay. So, I want to talk about this because, again, the rumors and some of the things online, as well as, honestly, a lot of the player base in some of these titles are not super hot on Frontier at this point. At the very least, where I got this from, Elite Dangerous on Reddit, because these people are I've heard for a long time that they're not happy with this game, even though there's aspects of it that they really like, and they like the Elite brand, because Elite Dangerous is like the latest one or whatever in the franchise, but they aren't happy with Frontier that I've seen. So we're gonna go through this, and again, this is accusations, this is allegedly. Don't sue me. This is just a random person going over what a bunch of other people have said. Okay? So, as you can see, this was written by this guy, Marco Woots. April 17th, 2024 was when it was originally published. employees speak out on situation at Frontier. And so, yeah, they talk about in October 2023, the UK game studio Frontier Developments posted a trade update bearing awful news for its employees. A cost-cutting program was to be implemented, which would include substantial layoffs at the company to achieve the targeted 20% reduction in annual operating costs, with up to a 3-digit number of jobs being threatened as a result. 3-digit number, so not below 100 and not above 999. Cuts affected all areas of business, but as is common in the games industry, departments like publishing and community management took the primary hits. So, being often regarded as essential and less essential and more easily replaceable than development positions. So I said in that video, I was like, I don't know. It could be the devs, as far as I know, but this makes it sound like it really was mostly publishing and community management. So other areas, for all I know, literally anything else like HR or something, or who knows, whatever. But this article specifically, Mr. Woods is saying publishing and community management. Mostly primary hits, mostly. So, and it appears as if Frontier subscribes to that attitude, given that after firing a number of employees, it's now looking to refill positions in those same areas. A new community manager and digital marketing assistant are currently sought to reinforce the team, and I think that did happen. I don't know if Rich Newbold was a part of that. No, he was the team lead. Jens Erik, I think, was the guy at the time, although he might have left before that. I don't remember. Okay, so they told him that they were going to get fired, possibly, and they did a reevaluation process, which took several weeks. So, meaning that as of this writing, right, the roles had only happened very recently. Francesca Falcini, this is important, I have to read this, I'm sorry. A former senior community manager at Frontier who underwent this from start to finish described it as 3 months of hell and called it a cruel process. She had to wait until December of 2023 to get her first consultation, and then went through an interview in which she had to present evidence to prove that she'd actually done her job in the time with the company. Okay, I am going to just say this really quick. If your managers and your employers do not know whether or not you are doing a good job, that is a problem. You can say that what they were doing is something on the level of, again, right here we have this word, interview. So when you go to get a job, you have an interview, and if you make it to that point in the hiring process, and you tell them, basically, your prospective employee, and you tell them, who you are. You try to make a good impression, and there's a good strategy for that, if you don't know, is an elevator pitch. And so basically, if you had like 30 seconds in an elevator with somebody, what would you tell them to get them to take your idea and like fund it or whatever? Or in this case, what would you tell them in 30 seconds to make them want to hire you? Is it a perfect thing? No, but this is the world that we live in. So basically, you want to convince them that you are going to fit in at the workplace, one, which we can talk about how silly that is in certain respects. But two, what kinds of work have you done in the past? And three, how will both of those other things help you to contribute to your work? and the work the company is doing if you are hired. That kind of a thing, okay? When someone is threatening to fire you and they want you to do an interview, I mean, they're already your employee. They should already have a record of of your workload, of how you've handled your workload, of how you have gotten along or not gotten along with other folks, and again, how well of a job you've done, how much you have improved or not improved in your time at the company. Those should already be in the records. Your manager should already know that stuff. Even if they're a new manager, right? Somebody just retired or whatever has gone away. There should be stuff in the files, and or when that person left, the incoming manager should have been trained, should have, basically talked to the outgoing manager, and the outgoing manager would say, hey, Lucy does this, this, and that, and, she's been really good about these things. I've tried to get her better on these things. Maybe she had a problem with, Jason when they were working on this project together. Whatever the hell, right? They should know that. You having to present evidence to prove that you've done your job, that's bullshit. They already know whether or not, at least according to them, because they could be wrong, right? But they already have in their mind whether you have done your job or not, right? They already know. They already have an answer. Or if they don't have an answer, then they don't know what's going on. At which point, I would argue, if you are a manager, or either a middle manager or someone higher up in the company, then the onus is on you to figure these things out. And if you want to say, well, this right here, this interview process is how they were figuring things out, okay. And then I'm going to say, but what brought them to that point? What meant that they had to do that when they needed to, or when they decided to fire a bunch of people in fall of 2023? Okay. So, Falcini got top marks in this interview, but remained at risk due to the application of the Bradford factor, a metric that measures employee absence without taking its context into account. This is important, and that's why I slowed down. So having to stay in a hospital for several days for pneumonia, as well as having PTSD, massively reduced her score. So basically, again, there's no flexibility. This is a problem. This is not a problem with Frontier exclusively. This is a problem with our society at large. There's no flexibility. You come to work or you don't. You come to school or you don't. There's no forgiveness. There's no leniency. There's no recognizing that people have entire lives where, this article talks about pneumonia and PTSD, parents die, children die, as terrible as that is. People get sick. People may not even die, but people get sick, and you have to, carry on, help with the workload of taking care of them and all that kind of stuff. And I think that goes for the UK too, not just the US, where our healthcare has been just as shitty for much longer. But anyway, so provide evidence of her absence, that her absence was justified and not excessive, which is invasive. It should not matter. You should trust your employees that they have their own lives going on. And if they tell you, hey, this shit has been happening to me, Or ultimately, it would be better if it was like, oh, you do need time. You've said so. I don't need a justification. Sometimes people, push the envelope. Sometimes people take advantage of things. But even then, what this ultimately is, because PTSD, a disability, right? Disability. Having PTSD is a disability. It disables you from functioning in our society the way our society wants you to function. Slash, our society disables you from functioning in our society by not giving you any leniency when you have PTSD. So, and now this is on the internet. Now this woman has had to put her own medical history on the internet. I might censor her name because I feel bad. I feel bad about talking about this. That's some private information that should not be public, that should have never had to be public to begin with. And she has chosen to speak out about this. Editing me here, I just want to say that I'm going to choose to respect her agency. This woman chose to go public and not be anonymous, and I'm going to respect that decision. I haven't contacted her so far, but because this was on the internet and was fully intended as something that would stay forever, I'm not going to censor her name. Should that change, of course, I will have to take this down and repost it. But for now, I'm going to respect her agency, and I'm also going to ask that anybody who listens or watches this not go looking for her, not go trying to harass her, or anybody really having to do with this whole situation. No harassment, please, and thanks. This is bad. This is bad. It was humiliating, dehumanizing, and cruel. She wrote. So yeah, and the Bradford factor. It reduced the Bradford factor just enough to allow her to keep the position as community manager, but she handed in her resignation the next day. The redundancy packages were demeaning. The process was cruel. We weren't told people had left until they'd already gone half the time. And a lot... Wait, what? Had left until they'd already gone half the time. Half the time. And a lot of talent was out the door. She summed up the situation. Speaking to GLHF, which this is... I think this is... I got confused, because I think this is the... This is either a division of Sports Illustrated, or this is what they're referring to as the video games. I don't understand what GLHF is. Anyway, Falcini elaborated on these redundancy packages. We were offered the bare minimum allowable by UK law, meaning those who were working for the company for less than 2 years, which was a significant number of people due to their push for growth, got statutory redundancy pay, and we were all told our benefits, including healthcare and rent-to-buy schemes to pay off tech, etc., from our paychecks, would be terminated, leaving a lot of people in a serious area of financial concern. Now, I didn't catch this before, but you know what is really tripping me up is including healthcare and rent-to-buy schemes to pay off tech. What does that mean? Because a company cannot force you to buy the technology you need to do your job. Even if you are working from home, they should be paying for computers or whatever. So, I mean, even if there's accessibility things that they should be paying for. There's all kinds of things. There's all kind of software that they should be paying for. So what does this mean? Rent to buy schemes to pay off tech. Okay, I don't know. But that sounds bad. Not knowing anything, that sounds bad. God, okay. So, and again, this is some heavy things, Not only are you going to fire people, but you're going to leave them with some kind of debt or, and God, the UK used to have really good healthcare and just as a baseline, and now things are messed up. So anyway, she emphasized the misuse of Bradford factor during the reevaluation process. The actual scores were subtracted from our scalable performance scores. So on a scale where the maximum was 100, it was possible to have a negative 200 subtracted from your Bradford factor, which is both pointless and obscene. So I don't really understand everything about the Bradford factor, but no matter what that is, the base of it being, looking at absences without looking at reasons for absences and all of that, that's gross. First of all, it's gross to put that as a number. Second of all, the fact that you can have a negative 200 out of 100, if 100 is the maximum score and you can have a negative 200, that is a weird scale. Why not have just a 0 to 100 scale? If you got it, and I'm just explaining it pointlessly, I'm sorry. Falcini confirmed that the publishing department at Frontier was reduced by 50% as part of the layoffs. She had worked on the company's most lucrative titles, Jurassic World Evolution 2, Planet Zoo, and Planet Coaster. She was community manager. But community managers are important because you're the forward face of the company. And you're like the liaison in a lot of ways, between the communities and the devs. Seeing roles that had been filled just a few months ago advertised as being vacant made her feel disappointed but unsurprised. She continued, many people on the impacted teams warned higher-ups that this number of roles was unsustainable. But as far as I know, not one single person who fought for the veracity of their role was taken seriously. I know of multiple people who asked to even move their role to part-time for a reduced salary and were rejected at the consultancy period. So again, we'll talk about that in a bit because there's some more stuff here. Atmosphere at Frontier after the layoffs was horrendous, Falcini said. She described that the process kept being drawn out and felt very corporate, with little concern for those leaving or staying. In multiple cases, people who either took voluntary redundancy or were laid off didn't even get a chance to say goodbye or hand over their work appropriately, she explained. This is really weird, too, because ideally as a company, you want your employees to properly understand the work that they have to do, so you're not just, reinventing the wheel with every employee, and you can, actually make finished products. Anyway, ideally everyone would want to treat other human beings like other human beings, but that in particular is something that outside of that dynamic is interesting. GLHF heard claims from other former employees that Frontier specifically targeted workers who were vocal about leadership in internet calls, which Falcini could not confirm. However, she described that people who asked questions or were critical in public channels, like Teams, I'm assuming that means like, was that the Microsoft thing? Anyway, were told they were being inconsiderate by sharing their concerns or discussing the redundancies on work channels. Which, Okay. At one point, the entire staff was told that their use of emojis, clown emojis, or sad faces in reaction to the senior leadership refusing to provide answers were hostile. So, I just want to say briefly that people who have power like to talk about, especially here in America, but I think this is pretty much everywhere, like to talk about sensitivity, about people being sensitive. You hear a lot of people say people are too sensitive these days. And I just want to read this to you again. Their use of emojis were hostile. And we're talking about clown emojis or sad faces in reaction to senior leadership refusing to provide answers about asking questions or being critical in public. Okay. She continued, I would also say that most of the people that were kept on, or in some cases promoted, during the process were those who were very pro-Frontier and did not want anyone speaking negatively about them. So, how do I want to say this? You know, it is one thing to have someone be overly negative and overly critical. It is another thing to have legitimate problems and have people talking about them and wanting you as a manager or the management in general to address them. Again, all this is very alleged. Don't want any problems, but if you cannot be critical of someone or something, that is a problem. And there's a difference, right? There's a difference between like I said, there's a difference between, dealing with bad faith criticism, which is only meant to tear down and not meant to address problems. It is just meant to smash things apart. It is just meant to put people down. And good faith criticism, which is meant to improve things. Improve things ultimately, whether it's stopping a bad behavior or a bad decision making process, or actually like coming up with new ways of doing things that that improve things. So, building new whatever. Back in October, Frontier Developments justified cutting costs with a period of disappointing financial performance and more challenging industry conditions, which isn't wrong on any account, but fails to answer the question of how the company got there in the first place. This is important. Period of disappointing financial performance and more challenging industry conditions, which isn't wrong on any account, but fails to answer the question of how the company got there in the first place. Since then, GLHF has spoken to several current and former Frontier employees to get their perspective on the situation, who agreed to share some insights under the condition of anonymity. These testimonials depict a company under an inept leadership walking from one financial disaster into another with its eyes closed and fingers in its ears. One source told us that they have observed nothing but total and continuing failures of leadership since joining the company. According to the same source, and verified via two others, the F1 Manager series has been a disaster for the company, with sales being very underwhelming compared to management expectations. I didn't even understand how many people are out there that would be interested in this game. Like, I know the park building stuff is niche too, but like, I don't know. Okay, anyway. I don't know how they had miscalculated predicted sales figures, but it was less than 1/3 of what they thought they would earn. Ooh, that's bad. less than a third. I mean, I don't know anything about business, but that sounds bad. Less than 1/3. One source explained, when they released F1 Manager last year, they dropped console support in the first week. They dropped it as in they stopped supporting console? Oh god. This year's version is a clone of last year's performance of last year's Perforce. What does Perforce mean? Perforce repository with a few extras added, sold at full price. It's an insult to the very small player base. Other sources reiterated how F1 Manager was a massive flop for the company, in part due to costly licenses. One Frontier employee told GLHF that the wrong management expectations were the most important point about the entire issue, because it didn't just impact the F1 Manager project. This seems to be a systemic problem. That's actually been the biggest issue seen across multiple titles: uncontrollable spending, poor decisions, such as what licenses we pay for, games we make, and what we fund, and then trying to offset it with unrealistic sales expectations, which anyone internally could tell you even early on that we'd never be able to hit. Falcini confirmed that impression, saying that this was one of the anonymous sources, saying that forecasts seemed absurd, though she couldn't share any specifics. F1 Manager 2022 actually sold well for such a niche title. Yes, I say niche and not niche. That's how I learned it. But the spend on making the game and securing the licenses was so high that we never stood a chance at actually making the money back. According to Frontier's trade update from June 2023, F1 Manager 2022 sold over 800,000 units in its first 9 months. Support for the debut title of the series was dropped early to move on to F1 Manager 2023, which was all the updates they wished they could have made for the first game, and then some new features, but sadly, not the features anyone wanted because of time. Does that sound familiar? Oh god. Okay. The reality is, it was all down to the dev cycle. The exec team wanted F1 Manager 2023 released with Silverstone coinciding with the Formula 1 British Grand Prix. Frontier management thought this would be better for sales, which meant the development team only had 11 months to ship the next iteration. 11 months, unless you were doing what it sounds like they did, is not a lot of time to develop a game. Frontier signed an expensive multi-year deal with F1, so we have to make the games, one source expressed. The official announcement of the licensing agreement from March 2020 stated that the license provides Frontier with the rights for 4 F1 seasons, 2022 to 2025 inclusive, subject to the achievement of certain financial performance thresholds. Management allegedly blamed the workers for missing the sales target. Anyone could have told you that F1 Manager 2023 wasn't going to sell as well as F1 Manager 2022. Responding to our request for comment, Frontier admitted that sales of our F1 Manager franchise have to date been lower than we had expected. It should also be noted that F1 Manager 2023 now features in Microsoft's Game Pass subscription service from October 2023, resulting in additional revenue for the franchise. However, the company denied all allegations of management blaming employees for a lack of sales. We have not blamed employees for the underperformance in sales. We value the contributions of our colleagues immensely and stand by their terrific work. Our teams have developed and published 2 great games that each performed well critically, F1 Manager 2022 and 2023. Internal communications said there was no placing blame, Falcini told GLHF, but went on to only criticize marketing, which this senior team had forced to make a number of decisions against their better judgment. Okay, at the time, our sources noted that this costly and devastating cycle might repeat itself with what was then still an upcoming title, Warhammer Age of Sigmar, Realms of Ruin, another game based on an expensive license with a niche audience. So, this is hard. This is hard to make it through. Okay. Announcing that anyone could be at risk of getting laid off 4 weeks before the game's launch didn't exactly help morale at the company either, we were told. Can't say anyone is feeling enthusiastic about it, one source said at the time. 4 weeks before the game's launch, they tell you could be fired. Game you worked on. Even if it was in publishing or whatever, right? You're still doing a project that you probably at least care that you did the work. I mean, unless you've absolutely had it. Anyway, in hindsight, these warnings appear to have been on the mark. According to Frontier's trade update from January 2024, covering the launch window of Realms of Ruin, quote, the revenue contribution from new games launching during the period was lower than expected. Okay. Those subpar financial decisions didn't end at development and licensing, according to some of the people speaking with us. Frontier's decision to acquire complex games with which it had worked through the Frontier Foundry label on publishing Warhammer 40,000 Chaos Gate Demon Hunters, a turn-based tactics game, in November 2022, was another point of criticism. This business has been a leech on the availability and capacity of Frontier's business operations teams, while serving no discernible benefit to revenue, one source said. Frontier itself stated the following about the merger in its FY financial year 23 trade update. Integration activities and growth plans for Complex are on track, and the acquisition delivered modest accretive financial benefits in financial year 23 as expected. While the others didn't comment on the Complex acquisition specifically, they confirmed that Frontier Foundry, the company's publishing label for third-party games, was another financial misadventure. Frontier itself dropped the label created in 2019 in June of 2023 after a review of its activities had concluded at the start of the year, citing a disappointing financial performance and increased competition amongst third-party publishers. In the statement provided to us, Frontier said the executive directors have acknowledged that some of the decisions made over the last 5 years, particularly in terms of business diversification, have not delivered the anticipated levels of financial performance. Gee, I wonder why. I'm not saying that other bigger game development companies haven't had a trend of cutting budgets and delivering less good products, because that is true, right? That's true. Like, I mean, a lot of the titles that I'm thinking of are titles that I've never really played or cared about, but I know that they just keep, churning out sequel after sequel after sequel. And some sequels are good, right? And some sequels have their ups and their downs and all over the spectrum. But so many. I mean, how many of each of these franchised games do you need? Do you need to make? I mean, and at this point, what else are they doing? They're taking old games, remastering them. Although in some cases, they're not even remastering them and selling them on new, on updated consoles or platforms or whatever. Anyway, one source contrasted this streak of unproductive investments with a lack thereof in other key areas, which have come to cost the company in the long run. At one point, Frontier bought licenses for new servers months before actually purchasing the machines, throwing away hundreds of thousands of pounds in the process, according to one source. I have no way of knowing if that's true or not, but or rather, I don't know enough about that to be able to really talk about it too much, but I will say that as somebody who doesn't know anything, that stood out to me. Anyway, the company has been spending money as if the budget was endless, and management were operating under the same illusion, continuing to act as if all was well, one person said. Frontier's response to this claim said the following: management believes that IT spend has been appropriately managed for a studio with Frontier's requirements. In my opinion, management are out of touch, Falcini, who worked at Frontier for almost 3 years, summed up the situation. They've truly lost all sense of what players want and would rather prioritize profit. She went on to say that staff at Frontier are wonderful and some of the most passionate, talented people I've ever had the joy of working with. They care about the games, want the best for the players, and truly, I hope everyone knows that. The problem is at the very top of the company, not with the majority of the people working there. Mr. Wutz, he's from Germany, so it might be Wutz. I don't know German. Anyway, sorry, Marco. In the end, sadly, it's not a story unique to this industry or any other. Employees are doing the best they can with the amount of resources and time they're given. And when that's not enough, the blame for and consequences of failure are on them, not the parties who made the decisions and usually defend their massive monthly salaries with the word responsibility. Additional reporting by Kirk McKeand. McKeand? So, that's a lot. And I just want to say, in addition to everything that was said, I just want to say that there's some people here that, a lot of these people these last few were the anonymous folks, right? They did not want to be named. And so, like a good journalist, they were not named. What was her full name? Francesca Falcini. So I want to say something about Francesca Falcini. She has put some things on the line by doing this. She has put her career on quite possibly on the line by saying these things. While yes, this is all a legend, Frontier, don't come at me. I'm gonna say this. How do I want to put this? Everything that has been talked about in this article, everything that Falcini was saying was something happening at Frontier, is not an uncommon thing to happen in the video game industry or in a lot of industries, but especially tech industries at the moment, but plenty of other industries too, are not treating employees well. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to say this, but unions are not perfect. They are a way for multiple employees or all co-workers below management to collectively use their power to stop things like the alleged horrible things happening in this company. Unions principally have to do with how their employees are treated, and so not everything is within that realm, right? We also are talking about the company spending money as if the budget was endless, and management operating under the same illusion. You know, a union can't fix that necessarily, but it is a powerful tool that doesn't necessarily get used this way all the time, but can be used by the employees to get better treatment. And there's a reason within the past few years unions have started to make a comeback, and that is because people working together can help stop some of this stuff from happening. So that's what I'm going to say about it. Again, even if this isn't true of Frontier, there are plenty of companies where this is true. I mean, just years ago, what were people talking about with Activision Blizzard? What were people talking about with I don't know, so many things. I talked about how, Microsoft has let go a ton of employees within the past few years, and Microsoft is still Microsoft. Microsoft still has a lot of money. So, however you want to do the math or whatever, this is not a problem with Frontier. This is a problem with the industry. This is not just a problem with the industry. This is a problem with large businesses or businesses in general at this point in history. And I'm not going to get too much farther into that. And like I said, unions can be abused. There's plenty of examples of, higher ups in unions who become their own little bullies, their own little tyrants. But if what a union is to you, organization. A union is an organization of co-workers. Okay, it is, in a lot of ways, work outside of work. Okay, and that does not sound tantalizing. However, it is an organization, right? Work outside of your job. It is an organization that you and your co-workers make up together, form together, are a part of together, that can be used as a defense and even as an offense against the abuses of power made possible by having a ladder system of power. Does that make sense? So, or a pyramid system of power with a few people at the top and a bunch of other people, delineated out in a pyramid shape down to the bottom. So, that's what a union is. And again, not all unions are perfect. Not all unions are good. Not all unions begin good and stay good forever. Not all unions necessarily have to remain bad if they become that way. Again, it's not just Frontier. If everything here is true, it's not just Frontier. It is a bunch of companies, and it's a problem. It's a problem. And so, like I've said several times now, there's a good reason why I am not going to buy Jurassic World Evolution 3. If I do buy it, I will be it will be once it is 90% off on a Steam sale, again, probably well after its release date, because I don't want to support this company. True or not, to be honest, I don't want to support this country because company, because I mean, there's just been a lot of other questions anyway. But everybody talking about F1 Manager, and in some ways, right? Like I said, JWE2 should have been JWE. JWE was not the game that we should have gotten. It should have been Jurassic World Evolution 2. Even if what you want to say to... God, I'm going to say this. I don't know if I'm going to post this part, but... Even if what you want to say is Jurassic World Evolution still restricted to the 5 deaths, still restricted to Isla Nublar, not going anywhere else, no other biomes, none of that stuff, but still having a much better fleshed out management system and animal behaviors, that still is the Jurassic World Evolution 1 that we should have gotten. And it is still the Jurassic World Evolution 1 that we did not get. And everything here about how things have been managed, if true, definitely backs up a lot of very factual information and also opinions. So, yeah. So, that's the video, I guess. If you liked it, please like it. Subscribe. Share. Those things. I don't think I'm going to be doing this a lot. Anything like this, but I just wanted to... this also kind of helped correct me in some ways, right? And I just felt the need to do the corrections and go through the whole article, especially if this article is just going to be gone forever, except on the Wayback Machine. I think that it's important to have it in as many places on the internet as possible. So, yeah, I hope you liked it. I hope Miss or Ms. or Mrs. Francesca Falcini gets to have a career, and I hope she gets to have to be left alone and doesn't get backlash from this. And likewise, I hope that Mr. Marco Woots and Mr. Kirk McKeand, I'm sorry, Mr. Kirk McKeand. I hope everyone here is doing just fine with their lives. And all of these anonymous people, I hope they're all doing fine. I hope people have been able to land on their feet after the layoffs. Because everyone deserves to land on their feet after pretty much anything at this point. Except a few select people. And I'm not going to talk about that. But, yeah. Hope everyone's okay. And thanks for watching. See you next time.